Once, men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. The planet Arrakis, also known as Dune, is the only planet in the known universe where the spice melange is found. The spice is a drug that is used throughout the Imperium for various purposes, mainly its geriatric properties. The spice is life and can more than double the human lifespan. In some special people, such as the highly trained Bene Gesserit Reverend Mothers, the spice melange can awaken prescient vision, sight of the future. The spice also heightens awareness and is used by the guild as a means for space travel, gifting them with prescience which they use to navigate. The spice melange is the gasoline of the universe. Without it, all commerce throughout the known inhabited galaxies would cease. The spice melange is also highly addictive. Once addicted, one must continue taking the spice, or else they will suffer spice withdrawals, which are always fatal. The spice, he said. It's in everything here. The air, the soil, the food. The geriatric spice. It's like the truth-sayer drug. It's a poison. She stiffened. His voice lowered, and he repeated, a poison so subtle, so insidious, so irreversible. It won't even kill you unless you stop taking it. We can't leave Arrakis unless we take part of Arrakis with us. 10,000 years before the start of Dune, mankind led a crusade, violently expunging all thinking machines from the Imperium. It was called the Butlerian Jihad, and its chief commandment still remains within their OC Bible. Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind. The punishment thereafter for owning or developing artificial intelligence was immediate death. The fall of thinking machines would mean that humankind would have to depend on itself for all its computing needs. And this is where Mentats come into play. Mentats are the human computers of the Imperium. Their mental abilities are ultimately honed to the point where they have become superior to even the ancient thinking machines. Most of the great houses employ a Mentat, for they possess exceptional cognitive abilities of memory and perception that are the foundations for supralogical hypothesizing. At the start of Dune, the human race has scattered throughout the galaxy and populated many planets, each ruled by aristocratic houses who each owe their loyalty to the Imperial House Carino. Emperor Shaddam Carino IV now sits the Imperial throne. In this time, the Lancerad was the group that represented all the great houses throughout the galaxy. Within the Lancerad, the High Council ruled and was overseen by the Emperor. The Emperor has grown to fear House Atreides. The Duke Leto Atreides had become more and more popular within the Lancerad, and it was said that the talent of Leto's own fighting force was beginning to rival the Emperor's own dreaded Imperial Sardaukar soldiers. The fiefdom of the desert planet Arrakis, the source of the spice melange, had been given over to the Duke Leto Atreides. But the gift was poisoned, and House Atreides expected as much. Duke Leto Atreides lived the majority of his life on the paradise world of Caladan. In the 20 years prior to the start of Dune, he had ruled over the planet with his concubine, the Bene Gesserit Lady Jessica, by his side. The Lady Jessica was provided with the most advanced Bene Gesserit training available and carried the fate of the sisterhood within her genes. But she betrayed them. Her love for Leto eventually grew so strong that Jessica disobeyed her orders to have only daughters and produced a son, their first child, Paul Atreides. In doing this, Jessica not only disobeyed direct orders from the sisterhood, she betrayed a general understanding held within the sisterhood. The Bene Gesserit are beyond love. Once on Arrakis, House Atreides takes up residence at the home previously occupied by House Harkonnen. It is full of traps. After many years of existing as a minor house, House Harkonnen's influence slowly increased within the Landsraad. This was largely due to the manipulation of the welfare market by the Baron Dmitri Harkonnen and his son Vladimir Harkonnen. House Harkonnen was famous for its underhanded and devious political tactics. House Harkonnen was most powerful during the rule of the Padishah emperors, building its power by minimizing production expenses and maximizing output by ignoring economically ethical conduct. Yidi Prime was the capital of House Harkonnen. It was a heavily industrialized world with very little plant life due to this fact. The planet supported factories, arenas, and many cities. The arenas, like the ones in ancient Rome, were used for gladiatorial events, brutal spectacles for the public where slaves would be massacred. Harkonnen governance was based upon terror, fear, and punishment. This is the way the household and the armies were managed as well. Since the societal order was based upon deceit and treachery, soldiers rose through the ranks through trickery, betrayal, and sometimes even assassination. It was around the year 10330 AG that House Harkonnen gained the fiefdom of Arrakis. They now had the responsibility of mining the spice melange and supplying it to the rest of the universe. The Harkonnens were able to pay their tithe to the Emperor and also keep a considerable amount of spice for themselves due to the fact that they minimized the amount of money they spent on infrastructure and pay, and also persecuted the Fremen. The feud between House Atreides and House Harkonnen is famous. House Harkonnen plots against both House Atreides and the Imperial House Carino. The Harkonnens have secret ambitions to rule the Empire. The Fremen are a group of people who live in the deserts of Arrakis. The actual population of the Fremen had been greatly underestimated by the Imperium before the events of Dune. Much of Fremen culture is dominated by the fight for survival due to the brutal conditions of the planet Arrakis. The environmental realities of the planet brought about the necessity for sparse use of resources and energy, especially water. In fact, much of Fremen culture is based around the preservation of water. Also, the Fremen's long history with persecution demanded the need for refined combat knowledge. These are the major two aspects responsible for the development of the Fremen culture and their emergence as efficient and hardy warriors who use their own skills while working in tangent with the environment of the planet Arrakis to fend off opponents who often possess far superior formal training and technology. The Fremen are some of the best hand-to-hand warriors in the entire universe. The harsh conditions of the planet Dune have forced them to be so. Water also played a vital role in Fremen culture. To the Fremen people of Arrakis, water was truly life. There was almost no water on the surface of Arrakis. For this reason, Fremen survival demanded that they conserve against the unnecessary loss of water at all cost. All Fremen wear still suits, which are full-body filtration systems which reclaim the body's water. The wearer of a still suit would lose only a thimbleful of water per day and be able to survive for 4 weeks in the open desert. Without a still suit, a person would die in the desert sun within hours. In Fremen culture, the water of each person's body belongs to the tribe. When a Fremen dies, the tribe conserves their water by distilling it from the dead body. The Fremen are also a deeply spiritual people and very superstitious. Since they have been on Arrakis, they have adapted their Zensunni faith to the desert environment of the planet. The great sandworm of the planet Dune is to the Fremen known as Shai Hulud. The worms were believed to be the physical manifestations of God. Thus, the worms are worshipped by the Fremen people. The Fremen people are survivors. They have persevered through persecution and managed to topple their enemies, though at a great cost. The all-female Bene Gesserit are among the most formidable and cunning in all the inhabited universe. The Bene Gesserit rose to power in the political turmoil that followed the Butlerian Jihad, the event which outlawed thinking machines in all the universe. Through intense ritual, the Bene Gesserit have learned to break through the barriers of the mind. By engaging in the Pranabindu, the Bene Gesserit can control every aspect of their physiology, which gives them many abilities such as neutralizing poisons by honing in on certain chemicals in their bodies and altering them. Though it is forbidden, the Bene Gesserit can even slow their aging drastically through intense physiological control. Their martial arts, known as the Weirding Way, through great mental and physical control, allows them to move in ways that seem too fast for the human eye to perceive, making them highly formidable in combat. Certain Bene Gesserit are truth-sayers. Through close observation of small physiological changes in others, they can accurately assess whether or not a person speaks truth and read their mental and emotional states in ways that seem like telepathy to common people. Through great alignment of the mind and body, the Bene Gesserit are able to perceive their senses in much more profound and exact ways than mere mortals are capable of. One of the greatest and most disquieting abilities of the Bene Gesserit is the voice. Through use of the voice, the Bene Gesserit can assess the mental state of a person and program them through subtle cues and nuances of speech to respond in a way that suits her intentions. Through voice, a Bene Gesserit can control the actions of another person to an extraordinary, almost supernatural level. For their abilities and religious association, the Bene Gesserit are employed throughout the universe. This makes them extremely important on a grand level, and also very dangerous. While men do maintain some important roles for the Bene Gesserit, they and all the females of the Sisterhood are subject to one woman, the Mother Superior. She alone maintains absolute control of the Sisterhood, and their loyalty to her is almost unquestioned. For thousands of years, the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood chose to exercise its power by acting only in the background of imperial politics. But this all changed during the events of Dune. The Spacing Guild possesses exclusive access to faster-than-light space travel. Through use of a special craft known as a Highliner, the Guild obtains these speeds thanks to the Holtzman effect, a phenomenon which is related to the repellent force of quantum entities. The ability to fold space is granted by the Holtzman engine, and it allows for instantaneous travel from one side of the universe to the other. Guild Highliners are usually of enormous size, thus they allow for thousands to be transported at once. They can also easily transport planetary goods, such as large amounts of the spice melange. The Navigators are super-evolved humans within the Spacing Guild. They are mutated through exposure to vast amounts of the spice melange. These Navigators have the ability to use a mentally conditioned and trained form of prescience in order to accurately navigate the vastness of space. Without Navigators, the Highliner could not avoid obstacles in space. Before the use of spice melange, folding space was far more dangerous. In those days, about 1 in every 8 space folders were destroyed during travel. Though the precise evolution of the monopoly they hold on space travel is not known, they have wielded this formidable power throughout the history of the Carino Empire. Like the Bene Gesserit, the Spacing Guild is a secretive organization that took up functions previously covered by thinking machines. Their very existence rests upon the proprietary knowledge they have held onto for millennia. The inner form of the guild was never fully revealed. It is known, however, that the role of guild navigator was most prestigious and the aspiration of almost all those who joined the guild. Both the Bene Gesserit and the guild were responsible for sowing the seeds of religion on Arrakis. It is also stated that the guild members themselves are atheists, and only did this in order to promote a stable societal order from which they could profit. In the Dune universe, Seleucus Secundus is the 3rd planet in the Gamma-Waping star system. It was initially the homeworld of the Imperial House Carino, but when the royals migrated to the planet Kitane, Seleucia became a prison planet. Seleucia, like Arrakis, is a harsh place with extreme temperatures. Many wild beasts lived on the planet, and the terrains were difficult to traverse. Once the royal court was on Kitane, Seleucia was chosen as a prison planet due to the harshness of the world. Anyone who was deemed a criminal of the Carino Empire was imprisoned there. It is heavily implied that the extreme nature of Seleucia was responsible for breeding the dreaded Sardaukar soldiers. Members of the Sardaukar were raised from a very young age in an intense natural environment. 6 out of every 13 died before the age of 11. Their training gave them formidable fighting abilities, which were thought to be a match for a Bene Gesserit adept, and they were experts at espionage. They were feared and renowned throughout the universe. The Sardaukar were the Emperor's own imperial elite military force during the Carino rule of the Empire.